Jeff, thanks for the comments. And I will take those comments back. And I mean, I will tell you that that's not Jeff is not the only person that has raised these points. But I will also note that I think the department is not, while global warming is a big debate, I mean, clearly global warming is being discussed. And it's not being discussed just in the terms of the science. It's being discussed in terms of the politics. And when you heard the Secretary speak, for example, about renewable energies, you didn't hear him speak to it as simply a global warming issue. You heard him speak to it as we need to work on the renewable energy component because it also, many of you testified, and I think you testified correctly, that energy independence is very important. And renewable energy has a big role in our energy independence. Speaking as an Alaskan who spent part of last summer in Barrow, who just visited Dillingham, renewable energy also has a very important role in rural Alaska. Because when you're spending $6 or $7 or $8 a gallon for fuel for your snow machine or your truck, and spending a lot of money for space heating on carbon-based products, renewable energy is an economic imperative also. So I hope as we debate the global warming politics and science, I hope we don't lose sight of the fact that if we can't tie the renewable energy component to the global warming debate, because renewable energy is going to be a big focus of the department, and it's not simply an issue that it's not a big component because of the global warming debate. It's a big component because of the energy independence part of the department's mission. You didn't hear it as much here. Most of you, I think, understand that the meeting that we had here Tuesday was the third of four. The first meeting was Atlantic City, and a large part of that meeting was wind energy in the offshore areas, both nearshore and the deeper waters. Wasn't quite the topic of discussion at the meeting in New Orleans, where you have an established kind of oil and gas regime. Wasn't quite the focus here in Alaska, where we've got problems. We have tremendous wind resources. We just don't have grids to deliver it to consumers. But I suspect that it's going to be the renewable energy component is going to be a big topic of discussion in California. So, John.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today, and congratulations to your position. We're very glad to have you. My question is, when ANILCA was passed, it had, as you know, designated a lot of conservation units across Alaska. And in ANILCA, it had many, many special provisions that said these conservation units would be managed differently than the lower 48. And we've seen over the years that the managers of these conservation units, the Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, the BLM, have a tendency to kind of forget about those special promises made to Alaska, how these conservation units were going to be different than the lower 48, that national parks and refuges would not be managed the same as Alaska is down south. I would like to hear if that's going to be one of the priorities for you, is reminding the folks in the Department of Interior how Alaska is different by law, how to manage these conservation units.
Yeah. John, thanks. You see me smiling a little bit. I mean, there are expectations that Alaskans have that are codified in law. And I think one of the challenges is going to be, I was only smiling because I was remembering our experience in Dillingham. And I think balance is difficult. And I will use a Dillingham example. Went out to Dillingham and the big topic there, I mean, of course we talked about the North Ocean Basin. There was some talk about Pebble, some talk about the cost of fuel. I'll tell you, the biggest topic of discussion was the dismay that many in Dillingham had, kind of across the board, that the new BLM land plan, Gary was out there, that the new BLM land plan allowed too much mineral exploration. And so, yes, there is a recognition that there are obligations that have been made in the past, and the department's going to live up to them. But again, when I suggested that whatever the energy plan is going to be, that you're going to look at it through different prisms, and there isn't going to be a prism that says that somebody's going to look through and say, hey, that's perfect. And I think perfection is going to be difficult in a lot of the resource allocation, resource management issues. And I use, and Gary spent, what, 2 years, 3 years in BLM land management plan for Bristol Bay, 1.9 million acres, if I'm remembering correctly. I doubt that Gary would say it's perfect. I can tell you people in Dillingham are not saying it's perfect. And I think that's the challenge, John. And I think that's going to be the challenge not just for our department, but for Department of Agriculture and some of the other resource managers. Yeah, Paul.
Well, first, Kim, congratulations on your position, and we wish you the best of luck. It's important for Alaskans. I had a question and another comment. Have you been to the North Star Island yet?
Yeah, the question Paul asked is, have I been to the North Star Island? I haven't, and somebody may be able to correct me, but I don't think any of the leadership team in the department has yet.
Well, it's the closest thing that we have to an offshore oil and gas facility on the outer continental shelf. So I urge you to go and to bring the secretary along. And while you're up there, go to the villages, Barrow, Nuiqsut, Kaptovik, Wainwright, and speak with the folks there. And also go down to Sandpoint, King Cove, Dutch, and the other communities that are proximate to the area of leasing for offshore oil and gas. I think it's important also that you and the secretary go to the Gulf of Mexico, to the offshore facilities there, see what is the state of the art. Obviously, that's in his territory for the OCS, the Gulf of Mexico, where the great majority of production is occurring. So it's important to see the facilities, what the safety record is, what the safety devices are, as well as how production occurs. I urge you to have the secretary make those trips early on.
For those in the back that probably couldn't hear Paul, he didn't really have a question. He did encourage us to get to the North Slope, to the production areas, Pluto, but as well as the villages along the side. He also encouraged us to get out onto some of the rigs in the Gulf of Mexico to see what kind of the state of the art is. The secretary is coming back this summer. One of the things that always happens on a quick trip is you say yes to some people and no to an awful lot of other people. I can almost guarantee that he is going to be on the North Slope on his next trip, because people from the North Slope are saying, well, you know, you're going to Dillingham and there it's just a concept, you know, but we've got OCS in our backyard, and, you know, how come you didn't come see us? We are going to be going to the North Slope. We're going to be going both to Prudhoe and hopefully to some of the villages that you mentioned. And the secretary 2 weeks ago was out in the Gulf. Took a helicopter out. I wish I could remember the name of the rig he was at. Flew out with Anderson Cooper, the news person, and the secretary and 5 or 6 other people from the department spent most of an afternoon on a rig. So they have had that